up, book lovers? It is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about some books that I have multiple editions of. If you didn't know, this is a 7 on Sunday topic, and I am the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out and you can participate in a topic in the future, or you can suggest a topic. This week's topic is purely inspired by bad buying habits. So there are many authors I have multiple editions of one book for, or multiple editions of series for. I'm not going to go through all of them today. Maybe one day I might do a tour of them, but yeah, today is not that day. Also, if I do show shots of my bookshelf, I might need to preemptively address the comments being like, bestie, do a bookshelf tour. The answer is no, and the answer is I'm not yet planning to do a bookshelf tour. I don't want to do a bookshelf tour in my small apartment now because I purposely do not show you this, but some of my shelves are really packed to the brim right now. Some of my shelves I use for storage space. I do not feel like I'm in a comfortable position where I'm ready to give a tour because honestly, you guys see the aesthetics that I want to put out into the world so far. However, I'm not yet ready to show you guys my entire library as I'm in a pretty crowded apartment. Maybe in the future when I am in a bigger apartment, I will do a bookshelf tour. And additionally, at this time, I'm kind of time poor, so you guys will be missing out on all sorts of other content from me if I was to put out a bookshelf tour anytime soon. I'm holding off for now. I've considered starting a Patreon eventually, and the bookshelf tour being my first video on there. I don't know, we'll see, but when it happens, it will happen. Just not now. But today, I'm gonna be showing you guys some books that I have multiple editions for. Some books I did want to collect mostly for aesthetic reasons. I don't necessarily collect multiple editions of every book series I absolutely love, or every book series I get a special edition set of from like Fairy Loot or Illumicrate, but at times when I like the original and when I like the new edition, I will usually keep them. I guess without further ado, I'm going to talk about those books today and let you guys know which ones I like collecting. So I'm pretty sure some of you guys might have gathered that I do collect a bunch of Sarah J Maas's books, and yes, of course, I do have to blame alternative dust jackets, but also multiple editions of this series. In total, I have around like 5 copies of ACOTAR, I believe, maybe even more. 5 at the moment. I believe my 6th is on the way to fill one of my dust jackets. That dust jacket is the Bookish Box Special Edition. Some of these editions just include regular editions of ACOTAR with just alternative dust jackets on them because I can't get over some of these alternative dust jackets. And of course, I've got the ACOTAR Collector's Edition that I didn't actually originally plan to get because I knew that they weren't continuing on the rest of the series in the Collector's Editions. I think when I got into bookstagramming sometime last year, my book buying habits just went out of control and I just started buying duplicates of everything. You guys might be wondering how I'm able to afford all these editions of ACOTAR, and that is because my friend works at Bloomsbury. Do note that I did not get every one of Sarah J Maas's books from my friend. However, if there were any duplicates in the picture, I will usually ask my friend for a couple of box sets. At this time, I only have 3 sets of the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas. I've got the original box set, so I like displaying the original hardcovers whenever I'm displaying the books. I also have my Nerdy Ink set, and I've got my paperback set, which were the original copies that I started collecting when I first got into the series. With the Throne of Glass series, I've also got 2 other box sets on the way because I really want to get the dust jacket set with the stag designs on them. I believe that's from Juniper Books, and then I know that A Touch of Magic Designs, who did the Dominique Wesson dust jackets of the ACOTAR series, they're also doing a set for Throne of Glass. So my friend from Bloomsbury kindly is still holding all those books for me. Now I just need to grab a suitcase and go over to their place and collect them so I can buy the Juniper Books dust jackets and also have a set on hold for when my Touch of Magic Designs ones come in. Guys, dust jackets are seriously my weakness. It's terrible. You guys might also be wondering if I have multiple copies of the Crescent City series. The answer is no, not at the moment. I am waiting for a dust jacket set to really take me by storm before I purchase any more. This being said, I don't think that my friend from Bloomsbury can get me any discounted hardbacks due to the fact that the UK hardback of at least the first book is currently out of print. So I will actually have to purchase them from the US. So I'm just waiting for some dust jackets to really blow me away before doing that. I've become a little bit more self-controlled. I went wild in terms of purchasing and making promises to get dust jackets. And the next book I have multiple editions of that I want to bring up is actually a book that I haven't read, but I decided to get a second copy of this book because I really loved the Fairy Loot edition. Yes, guys, that is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I really love this original cover. cover. I really do. The problem is the Book Depository delayed my pre-order, and I'm really bitter about it. I literally pre-ordered this a few months before it came out, and they screwed me over by saying that it was out of stock for a few months after it got published, and then they sent me the second printing. Incredibly bitter about this. But that being said, it kind of justified my reason to purchase the Fairy Loot edition secondhand. I really hope that I get to the second book in the Fairy Loot edition and I don't lose out in the sale, because oh my goodness, this edition is absolutely stunning. I don't necessarily love the pink cover as much as I love the blue cover, but I still really love the pink cover. Overall, I love the end pages so much. I never usually care about the end pages, but these are some end pages I really adore. Also, I really love the reversible dust jacket art. That's some of the prettiest reversible dust jacket art I've ever seen. I also really love the foiling underneath this cover. I just kind of justified it in my mind. This being said, I really need to read it because I have really high expectations for this book and this duology in general. I think it's a duology, maybe a trilogy. I'm really looking forward to reading it. I just need to finally do it because this is a really expensive book. This one barely has any value, but this one is a really expensive book. And then I have to bring up the Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I currently have 4 copies of the first book. I don't necessarily plan to get any more unless I believe A Touch of Magic Designs is planning to do their own, and I don't know who they're getting to illustrate their cover, but once I know that, I will probably make a decision. In terms of the other From Blood and Ash dust jackets, they've never really like grabbed me the way that my special editions have. I've got the Illumicrate special edition here, the Bookish Box special edition here, and Fairy Loot special edition, which not many people like, but I do. I mean, a lot of people really like the foiling underneath this one, and I definitely agree. I think this one has the best foiling out of all of them. But yeah, you know, I have been collecting these books over the last year. I do like this series. I don't love the most recent book in the series. I actually don't know whether Fairy Loot is having troubles with the 4th book in the series, whether there's any publishing issues, or whether they're just not continuing on with the special edition. But what I do know is that I'm still waiting for them to open up a pre-order for the War of Two Queens, because I've been able to pre-order the War of Two Queens for these 3 editions in my hand here. Still gonna continually collect this series. I don't necessarily think that Jennifer L. Armentrout has lost me just yet. I have unhauled the paperbacks in the series because I didn't see the point in having paperbacks when my hardbacks literally have the same cover. The hardbacks just go better with my other sets in height. I just kind of like the consistency on my Blood and Ash bookshelf, so that's why I decided I was gonna stick to getting the hardbacks. I'm very much a happy fan with this collection so far. And I also gotta mention that I have multiple editions of the Deal with the Elf King or the Married to Magic series by Elise Kova, who is one of my favorite authors of all time so far. I actually have the Air Awakens series by the Bookish Box pre-ordered, so I'm very much looking forward to receiving those as well. Elise Kova is that type of author that I would have multiples for because I absolutely enjoy her storytelling. But so far, the only series that I have special editions of from her is the Married to Magic series. I don't have the Fae Crate editions, unfortunately, but I do have the Bookish Box special editions. I really like these editions because their stenciled edges are pretty cool. I also really like the end pages and the foiling on the hardback. I don't necessarily love the foiling on the hardback as much as I like the original hardbacks to this series. Like the original hardbacks, I don't think anything can beat that. I really love the colors on this one. However, the Fae Crate editions also look really cool underneath. I kind of feel envious of anybody who got the Fae Crate set. However, I have to acknowledge that many people feel envious of me for snagging the Bookish Box special edition set. This was a limited printing. It actually got sold out within the subscribers only sale, so I was lucky enough to snag the set, and I'm so happy that I did because oh my goodness, Elise Kova, I go nuts for her. And now I want to talk about having multiples for the Crave series by Tracy Wolff. Now originally the Bookish Box actually included a copy of Crave in their monthly subscription. I wasn't part of the subscription back then, but they included this cover as the alternative dust jacket cover, and they ended up selling spares on their website, and I just fell in love with this cover so much. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like this cover really motivated me to actually pick up Crave. I don't know why. I was just probably obsessed with the color palette, and I was motivated to buy a copy of Crave to get this dust jacket to put around it, but the original cover like is okay. So I do have the original edition underneath this. This is not a special edition whatsoever, but I like keeping the Bookish Box alternative dust jacket on top of the original book. Later down the track, the Bookish Box decided they wanted to make Lux editions of the Crave series. If you guys don't know the term Lux editions, pretty much it's a Bookish Box term. They use it when they fully customize a book, when the book is actually submitted to them via like a manuscript digitally, and then they print it. So they were pretty much given full permission to go all out with the design of this set, and I really love this set, especially because of the font on the spines, and also the fact that all the spines make the Catmere Academy. And the next books should be available to pre-order when it's closer to their release dates. I also really like the detailing on the pages. The end pages look really cool, and each of these books have character foiling on them. In all honesty, I don't actually know which cover design I prefer prefer, but I'd have to say the aesthetics of the entire set that they created, absolutely stunning, and I just prefer the entire set over the original Crave set that I do have. Like, the original Crave set's okay, except those books just remind me too much of the Twilight design. I know they try to do something different by actually adding a little bit of color rather than all the books being black. However, these covers, they're everything to me. And of course, I've also got to address that I have 6 copies of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I initially wanted a spare copy to put this special dust jacket on. This cover design was illustrated by one of my favorite illustrators on the internet at the moment, that is Gemlin Creations. I love everything that they illustrate. The fact that they illustrated a cover for The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, that convinced me enough to place an order from overseas to get this one dust jacket. I also have the original edition of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This one has blue pages. I really like the blue pages, and this was one of the first editions that I saw in a bookstore. I think this was a Kinokuniya exclusive. And the final out of the UK editions I have is the 1 anniversary edition of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. You know, the one that has the forget-me-nots on the pages. This one looks absolutely pretty, however, it is very fragile. It definitely has a paper-like texture. I do also really like the art that's in here and the foiling. I could justify having multiple copies of this book because this book is one of my favorite books of all time. Now moving on to the US editions, I have the original US edition here. I initially just wanted this cover. I love this cover so much. Yeah, there's nothing underneath here, but I mean, this is a really cool edition, and this was my first edition of Addie LaRue. And yes, of course, I had to get the US first anniversary edition of this book. I actually really love this cover. This is probably one of my favorite designs, probably my favorite cover out of all the ones that I've just showed you. And I think I like it because of the gold and the blue. I personally find it very striking, and I like that the gold is actually a shimmery gold. It's so beautiful. I can't help but look at it from time to time. The end page art is completely different. There's a little symbol underneath here. I really love it. Yeah, it's just absolutely adorable. But because I'm trash, I also had to get the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. Now, we don't have Barnes & Noble here in Australia, so I had to pay a lot in shipping for this. But it was worth it in the end. I mean, personally, from what I know, there's not really much customization beside the cover, but I'm really happy that I have this edition of the cover. I love both of them, and I love how both of them stand next to each other on the shelf. I just really love the colors here. And the next books that I want to bring up that I have multiple editions of are actually part of a series I haven't really continued on with. I need to continue on with the series because I actually pre-ordered 2 of these editions before I read the first book, and the first book is quite shocking. It's not a first book that I would recommend. However, it seems to be more of a prequel than it is actually like a first book in the series. I believe that the second book more has a feel of being a first book in the series, but the first book kind of gives you context as to like where the protagonist comes from. At this point, I'm very much invested in their journey. I have multiples of the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. First of all, I want to talk about the US hardbacks of the series. Now, these editions, I felt like there was a little bit of pressure to get. I think I just kept on seeing the fandom post about them and them just looking absolutely pretty. Underneath here, we've got a little bit of art. And quite literally, all the original hardbacks for the series have this design. So it's not necessarily too special. However, I just felt like I really wanted it for my collection. I don't know, they just kind of look aesthetically pleasing on my shelf. But then I also have the original paperback edition of the series. This one is the independently published edition. They've recently come out in paperback here in Australia, published by Penguin. However, book 4 does not match the rest of them. In fact, book 4 has the style of the original hardback. So I've decided that going forward, I'm just going to collect the independently published editions because Glow looks pretty similar to these ones. However, it's a lot more expensive to get them imported from the US. I'm gonna hold off from purchasing Glow for quite some time at the moment. I originally purchased these ones, and at the same time, I also purchased the Bookish Box Special Edition. So essentially, the Bookish Box are actually who inspired me to pick these up because I was hearing many great things about this book series from the Bookish Box. And also, I mean, they have some really cool cover designs with this series. I think that they did an excellent job with the set. I'm not necessarily in love with the pages. I kind of reckon that they should have just gilded the entire page, but that's okay. I can live with it. Essentially, the aesthetics of the series are kind of what's getting me to collect them, and now I just need to continue on with it because I need to know what happens next in Oren's life. And finally, we need to talk about my multiples for Divergent. The Divergent trilogy is essentially what got me into reading, so before anybody gives me hate, like you too would probably have some sort of emotional attachment to one of the first book series that you read. This is personally something that I have an emotional attachment to, and I understand that people say that it's not well written. Okay, good for you. I really love the Divergent series, and I completely understand why people don't like the way that it ended. However, this series I remain attached to because it's what got me into reading. But technically, I have the original US hardback of Divergent here. I've got the 10th anniversary edition paperback here. This was my first copy of Divergent. Yes, I had the black covers initially, and then I ended up collecting the other paperback edition here for Australia/UK. This is the collector's edition, and these at the top of the pile were the newer UK editions that actually went out of print, or at least the box set went out of print, because they're now publishing these ones going forward. But what I forgot to show you in that pile was also the fact that I have an ex-library edition of Divergent. I decided I wanted to use this for annotation purposes, and I did put Be Brave here when I first got it. I got this edition 7 years ago. Wow. I started annotating it, but I don't annotate books. I still want to annotate my version of Divergent eventually. Even if it doesn't happen sooner or later, I'm still going to keep these versions of Divergent. They're not going anywhere. I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the book stack emoji, because we've just showed multiples today, so it's just pretty fitting. If you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social media. I'm at GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also at Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at GSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it into double. Started out with half and I flipped it into double.